Professor Sharma, for long we have been describing Indian society in terms of continuity and change. Do you like to explain Indian society from the same perspective even today?
Well, continuity and change have remained constant features of Indian society in terms of its institutions, particularly religion, caste, village community and other institutions, family have remained constant in a certain way and also have changed over a period of time. Now the changes have taken place mainly due to education, industrialization, urbanization. These are the main factors of change, but at the same time some elements, core of these institutions have remained more or less stable. Not really static in the sense, but certainly with modifications. The institutions are persisting in Indian society. There is family, caste, religion, village community. But I think all these institutions need to be redefined, reconceptualized. It is not the same caste which existed, say, in the 50s, or same way is about the family as an institution. It has taken a different form, different shape. Religion also has a lot of changes due to technology, migration, urbanization. So I think therefore there is a need to redefine, reconceptualize these institutions. Look at the village, for example. Now village is altogether having today very different complexion, but still there is some kind of a ethos of community, those who live in the village. But migration has changed its character particularly. So is education, urban employment and connectivity of those who have migrated with the native villages, native places. I think that these are the factors which can explain largely continuity and change.
Has there been any change in the relationship among the various social categories in rural India today?
Now, for example, the kind of cooperation and mutual help used to exist, prevail in the village community is not there. Even if a marriage takes place today in the village, I think one can see the commercialization. Most of the things are hired either from within the village or from nearby towns and cities. Now this is mode of transport has come about, mobile telephones have become very popular. So I think the whole village scene has undergone a change, but still the village people are around. I give two examples. One of the non-farm economic activities in the village, which were hardly in existence, say 50 years ago, 40 years ago. Now about 30% of the village people in India are employed in non-farm activities straight away. So dependence on agriculture has come down considerably. 30% is a significant number of the people. Same thing I can say about the caste. The caste as a system is hardly in existence, but caste as a phenomenon, as a means of identity, one can find in the village community. Now caste is not seen because there is hardly system like Jajmani, intercaste dependence. So intercaste relations are of a different kind today. They are dependent more on mutual give and take, more on political and other interests. Now it's not caste functions are not ritually or socially shaped relations among the people. I think these two are most important changes in my opinion, and I strongly feel that we need to rethink about institutions like caste, village community, Jajmani relations, intercaste relations, intracaste relations. They are specifically, pragmatically shaped relations today. This does not mean that caste does not exist, or this does not mean that there is no village community. I think about 60% of our people still in one way or other are dependent on agriculture. So, but then agriculture is now having a different character altogether. partly because of commercialization of crops, partly because of new technology which has come about, partly because of people's migration. All these factors have come about which have changed the nature of agriculture and therefore relations among the people, because intercaste relations generally were around agriculture, because most of the people were involved in one way or other with agriculture in terms of intercaste relations. So therefore I think we need to redefine, reconceptualize. I think the other institution which is very important is family. Family and individual, I think both have become very important units of social status and power. It is not caste as such, though caste, as I said, is there as a phenomenon, but it's used or misused, is appropriated or misappropriated. But family is something which has become quite, because decline of caste as collectivity has strengthened individual and family. This is inverse relationship between caste, family and individual. So when caste has become weak, the individual and family have become strong as units. So the people's interests center around family particularly, and individuals have become somewhat important. This does not mean really that there is individualism. This does not mean that there is just nuclear family in the countryside. Yes, I think what Professor I.P. Desai long ago said, that there is jointness, there are degrees of jointness. So I think jointness as a functional phenomena is still there in a substantial way, in a significant manner it is found. So I think, but then we have to rethink about this. We cannot blindly go on saying that rural India is characterized by caste, joint family, etc., etc. I think these are now not correct perceptions about village community in India.
What has been the role of conflict in contemporary social relations in rural India?
I think not really these three factors as such, but in my opinion, maybe I am not exactly right in saying this, but most of the conflicts or even litigations are centering around political interests, factions, and therefore most of the time one seeks that one belongs to this particular faction or so-called political group or leader and all that, and therefore they work against each other whenever they are, because the elections have taken deep roots in the countryside, whether these are elections of the credit cooperative societies or village panchayat or for state legislature or for Lok Sabha. I mean, the people are divided, and this division sometimes apparently on caste lines, sometimes on political parties basis, and sometimes based on the interest, local interest. So I think that is very important. Now ultimately one can say it is between the families, the 2, 3, 4 dominant families, but caste as such has declined. Now I recall regarding this, long ago, American scholar Colinda, she studied a West UP village about 4 decades ago, and the people reported her that the problems of the village people were about school, that is education, about income, employment, about migration, about transport, communication, etc. And she visited, and so she concluded that development, dialogue, discourse was essential to the people in Western UP. But she visited again the same village after 3 decades or so, and people reported her that no, now the upper caste people cannot see their women with an evil eye. If they do so, they would not tolerate and react in a strong way. And that means the discourse has changed. It was discourse about dignity, about honor, about what we call ijat. Now, so I think change has taken place, and it is this change which necessitates reconceptualization, redefining of village community. So we have to think of the change, the transformation, and this change and transformation, I think, would mean that we have to have a relook at some of the basic institutions of Indian society. Two implications: one, that the opportunities which people were seeking by way of migration, they are now to some extent available in the village itself. And because of road, transport, because of communication, because other non-farm avenues are available. The tea shops on the roadside, the repair of tubes, tires, all sorts of things. Some cottage industries have come about, and people work in the village and they supply unfinished goods to the factories in the capital towns or district towns, etc. So that means that the people which they used to seek such employment in the urban centers outside the village, now part of this is available in the village. And probably for those who control the industry outside in the cities and towns, it's cheaper for them to get the work done in the village. That is one thing. And the other thing that people are, yes, you are right, Prasdeval, that they are coming out of some kind of a binding, some kind of a relationship which was of a binding nature, maybe with rich peasants, maybe with the local moneylender and trader, maybe with some upper caste dominants, maybe whatever, or maybe with somebody who are attached with. So that is also there, that coming out, that 30% people, if they were dependent on some institutions or individuals, families, they have come out and they are on their own. So there is some kind of a sense of standing on one's own, and this is something which is there, and this has resulted in assertion of identity, self-respect, some kind of a dignity, self-dignity. So these are the things naturally, I think, and in my opinion, such a thing strengthens our democracy. The people then cannot be pressurized easily, because they are on their own. In my opinion, I think two things are very important. One, the television network, which is very important. Radio is hardly there now in its television. Maybe that they have a small black and white television, but they have it. That's one thing. The other thing which is very important, the mobile phone. I think almost there is hardly anyone, even the illiterate women would have a mobile, and they would talk to the people who are far off places, at far off places, maybe family members, maybe relatives, maybe acquaintances. So this is happening. This has happened. So the widening of networks has come about. So if anything happens, immediately one comes to know about it. Maybe one is 500 miles away, maybe 1000 miles away, maybe within the village itself. If you are in some other corner of the village, you come to know about it. So I think mobile phones have brought about a communication revolution, much more than earlier radio and television. There were village studies in the 50s, 60s, which we generally thought that they were inspired by functionalism. You look at study by S.C. Dubey, and Srinivas was influenced by British functionalism, and so on and so forth. We used to talk about all that. And then we had agrarian studies in the country, and these agrarian studies, generally speaking, were inspired by Marxism of one or other variety, and we have similar classifications based on Marxist thinking, particularly with regard to high, middle, low, peasants, etc., etc. All that was there. But now I think in last 2 decades or so, the change has come about in thinking, and you call it modernization, maybe in a way, you call it globalization, but now there is a lot of people who have migrated out. For example, you look at Rajasthan, Haryana, maybe some other parts, people have moved in, or Kerala, Malayali people have moved in a big way to Gulf countries. Now they have Gulf money in the villages. They have moved out in other parts of the country. Now earlier people used to migrate to within the country to far off places. Now instead of, now that kind of migration is not taking place. Migration can be from village to district headquarter, to state capital, to Delhi or to Chennai or to Mumbai. But now to going to Gulf countries is a phenomenon which was never thought of in fact, and that is one thing. Now other thing which I have seen, that for example, take the example of Andhra. From Andhra, from coastal areas, people have sold off their land and come to Hyderabad, settled down, bought a piece of land or managed a house, getting education for children, settled down. From Andhra, almost from every village, at least one or two people, or in some villages from almost all families, most of the families, people are in Silicon Valley in United States, in California, working as engineers. And so this means that how do we really apply what you call the functionalist or the Marxist or some other frame of reference to the rural situation. I think yeah, we probably have to rethink of these approaches, these frames of reference, and we have to think of, this does not mean there is no exploitation. I am not saying that this does not mean there is no poverty. I don't mean that there is no integration or cooperation. There is cooperation, but nature of cooperation has undergone change. It's not relationship that one is related to two, two is related to three, three to four, and therefore there is a holistic whole. We get it. I think that kind of a nature of society probably is not there. People take their decisions, move around, they consult the people they want to, they are invited, they invite the people of their choice. It's not that in general way they invite all the members of the caste. So the functionalism, needs to be refined. It's not that. It's not that people don't raise their voice against exploitation. Yes, they rebel, they revolt, they go to police, they mobilize people, they take out processions, they oppose unequal distribution of water from the public resource. Now these things I think are happening, so therefore there is people's voice is coming out, and with coming of people's voice the functionalism of the traditional nature becomes weak. But it's not that it's all the Marxist, no, because there is globalization, there is migration, the people, the sources on which the exploitation used to prevail, those sources are no more. That kind of system does not exist, and that kind of industrialization has also not come about. So there is no as such the bourgeois and the proletariat. I think in the country as such has not come about that kind of situation. So, but yes, in agriculture under the feudalism we had this problem of master and worker or landless peasants. That kind of system is, in that sense, does not exist. Now a construction worker or agriculture worker says, I'll take 150 rupees if you want to work from me, otherwise no. Now this is something very important, no bonding, no bonding. So I think we have to even rethink of these traditional theoretical orientations and their applications to village society particularly.
For long we have been explaining change in Indian society in terms of functional perspective, Marxian perspectives, and also from the perspectives of modernization and globalization. Do you like to critically examine the relevance of these perspectives in explaining change and continuity in Indian society today?
I look at globalization as a renewed form of modernization. I mean, it's another step, another step. Earlier we used to think of modernization in the construct of impact of colonial rule on India and the technological advances which had occurred after independence. That was put together was modernization. I think it's very difficult to say that this particular change is just simply micro, and this change has no implications. Even if it is micro in nature, it has originated from within that it has no implications for the larger society, or the larger changes which are taken place are just there at the macro level and not are filtering down to percolating to the rural society. So I think it's very difficult because of the means of communication, because the people know about the changes. They come to know about, maybe that the level of education is not that high, but the people know about, and that is something which is taking place. So I think modernization will remain a persistently a process of change, because modernization is not, in my opinion, it's not an ideology as such, it's a process of change. What new elements occur and how they are added to the existing structures. That is the, so globalization is one step ahead forward compared to what was considered as modernization. I think it has affected certainly culture, it affects the people, sometimes it has resulted into some kind of withdrawal of some of the privileges or concessions given to the people. Weavers were given subsidies and loans of small amounts. People say that after globalization the state has withdrawn some of these things, and so people should become more competitive. They fight for their own existence, survival, they look for employment, there is a competitive situation. But one thing I would like to mention here, the most important thing needs to be done about Indian society is capacity building. Now you have opportunities, you advertise the post, people apply, but some are selected, and again similar kind of people are selected. Now why this happens? Because others, the 1,000 people who compete for, they are not selected, because they are not capable of competing with those 5 or 10 or 15 who are selected for these positions. Now this capability building, this is most important aspect, and unfortunately this means that there is no fair justice, and this some kind of a problem exists with our system, and probably system is not able to deliver opportunities, real opportunities to the people, so that they can compete with others.
Thank you, Professor Sharma, for joining us today and giving a lot of descriptions about the change and continuity in Indian society, and also talking about globalization, modernization and their relevance in explaining the contemporary change in Indian society. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much.